when my job changed. So we shifted to a smaller area of the city. I was asked to stay in a rented house for a few days. Until my flat is ready. So I rented a small house some distance from the workplace. That house was a little far from other houses. There were only empty plots nearby. The owner of this house also did not live in this house. I shifted to this house with my wife and one of my daughter. We didn't unpack most of the stuff. Because we knew we had to stay here for a few days. Until our flat is ready for us. That house was built like this. Its front and back doors were exactly opposite each other. After dinner, we all went to bed. Around 2:30 a.m. I heard a knock on my front door. Hearing this, I woke up. I saw the time. And wondered. Who could be there in such a night? I asked the other person at the door. Who is? But there was no reply. Just whoever it was banging on the door. I was about to open the door. He stopped knocking. I opened the door. But there was no one outside. I got out. And looked around. But I could not see anyone far away. I thought that maybe someone is playing a prank on us. And I slept with the door closed. The next day, I went to the office. And while coming from the office, I picked up my daughter from school. I was tired from work. But still we decided we would go out for dinner. We reached home at 10:30. I locked both the doors and all the windows. And we all went to sleep. Suddenly, there was a knock on our door again. We all woke up after hearing this knock. I looked at the clock. So that was the time. It was 2:30 in the night. My wife and my daughter were scared. I told them that there is no need to be afraid. And started to go. As I was about to open the door, the knocking stopped. Same thing happened last night. I quickly opened the door. And again there was no one outside. Now I was quite disappointed. And a bit scared. I looked around. And show me none. My wife asked me, who was there? I explained to her. Maybe there are some guys who are bothering us for their own fun. There is nothing to panic. The next day I left for my office as usual. And returned by evening. We all went to sleep. But I had planned for today. I will stay up all night. So that I can catch him. Who knocks on the door. I sat by the door all night. And now it was 2:30. I was alert and ready. As soon as there was the first knock on the door, I quickly opened the door. I was surprised to see that there was no one outside the door. Then there was a loud knock on the back door, the sound of which disturbed the sleep of both my wife and my daughter. We were all scared. I asked my wife to stay away from the door. And asked to take care of her daughter. I closed the front door. And started towards the back door. I was holding a baton in my hand. And quickly opened the door. I was ready. Whoever is behind the door, I will beat him with a stick. But what I saw. Seeing this, my eyes were filled with surprise. There was no one outside the back door either. A few seconds later, there was another knock at the front door. My wife and my daughter got scared and started crying. I encouraged my wife. And I grabbed the stick. And started walking slowly towards the front door. And the back door was left open. Slowly I opened the door. Now my whole body started to get electric. I was scared. When I saw that, there was no one outside the front door either. I shouted loudly and said, "Is there anyone? Timid. If you dare, come before me." My wife pulled me into the living room. And then the door closed itself in my face. The back door also closed by itself. And now on both doors, there was a loud knocking. The sound was so loud that we kept shouting for help. And we couldn't even hear each other. That voice was quite loud. We kept calling for help. But no one heard our voice. Suddenly that voice stopped. But we were still scared. The three of us sat in the hall all night. The next morning we packed our things. And soon, we left that house. And shifted to a hotel in the middle of the city. Sometime later, I told a friend about the scariest experience of my life. He told me the secret behind this house. I came to know that some years ago, there was an accident near this house. A motorcyclist's bike slipped in front of this house in heavy rain and went straight into the pool. He suffered deep injuries, and his phone was also broken. He was bleeding profusely from a deep head injury. He made a lot of noise, and there was no one around who can hear his voice. Then he saw that house, inside which the lights were burning. As soon as he reached that house and rushed to the door and started knocking, but no answer came from inside. He was knocking loudly on the door and was crying for help, but no one opened the door. He kept knocking on the door. He did not know that there was no one in that house. The owner of the house had left the lights on, and he was not at home. That wounded man died in front of that door, knocking on that hope that the door will open. That whole incident, it was recorded in the CCTV camera, which was installed outside the house. From that night on, whoever stayed in that house that night, he still hears the knock on the door. Since that incident, someone knocks on our door. So my whole family starts shaking with fear.